What is up, New Beginning Church? Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to our devotional series, our walk through the book of Colossians. I want to encourage you, be reading. We're already in chapter 2, but be reading along through the book of Colossians as we kind of soak in this really, really rich, I think, part of Scripture here. Again, Paul is talking to a church that he didn't plant. He doesn't know them personally, but he's met with one of their local leaders, and the local leaders give him kind of the issues in the landscape. And today, I think you start to see Paul finally address some things. Remember in chapter 1, he prays for him, and then he just tells them about the power of Christ and the deity of Christ. Now he pivots, though, and we talked about this yesterday. He goes, I'm fighting for you. I'm contending for you. And in this chapter, I think he really shows you, because he addresses two big issues. He's going to address two issues. He says, I'm fighting for you. I want to protect you against something that could harm you. And then in the middle of these two issues, I think he sandwiches the answer right in the middle of it. And so let's address issue number one here, because remember, this church in the city of Colossus is dealing with certain cultural issues of their day. They're living in a Roman empire underneath Roman and Greek gods and goddesses and pagan influence and all this stuff. And I think Paul is addressing like, hey, you live in a culture that is going to point you to things other than Jesus. And so he says this is verse 4. He goes, I tell you this so that no one may deceive you by these fine sounding arguments. Meaning like in life, you're going to have people try to come along and deceive you with something other than Jesus. And that's an issue. Watch verse 8. See to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy, which depends on human tradition and the elemental spiritual forces of this world rather than on Christ. Now, I think what he's really just pointing to is, hey, you live in a pagan culture, and all around you are these kind of Roman and Greek gods and goddesses that if you pay homage to, including Caesar, then you'll be made right with God. He goes, but those are deceiving philosophies. Those are weird ideas. We don't want to do, and this is what paganism is. Paganism is any belief that points you to something other than Jesus. And you got to remember, in the Roman world, man, they had gods for everything, and it was very polytheistic, and there were all kinds, because again, they just looked at like these needs and desires they had, and they thought, well, there must be a god or goddess in the heaven that can satisfy this need or this desire. I'll give you some. They had Aphrodite. Aphrodite was the goddess of love and of beauty, of desire and pleasure. And you know what? We don't go worship the goddess Aphrodite anymore. We don't do that. But man, bless God, will we run up a credit card and will we go to extreme measures to try to stay beautiful, to stay good looking, to have all these nice things. And so what's interesting is that we think that we're so beyond paganism. And what I've discovered is that really we live in a world where there's the same spirit with a different name on it. We don't call it Aphrodite, but man, are we enticed to pursue beauty. And if we have just enough beauty and pleasure and desire, we'll feel better about ourselves. Here's another one, Apollo, the god of music, art, knowledge, healing, all those things. It's like they would go worship Apollo. And again, we just do it. We don't call it Apollo, but we pursue things sometimes other than Jesus. The god Ares, the god of war and bloodshed, Athena, Dionysus, I love this one. She was the god of wine, parties, festivals, drunkenness. It's like, oh yeah, we still got that. It's just called Jose Cuervo now. It's just called Grey Goose. It's called something, I don't know what it's called, but anyway, we don't call it that. The god Hades, the king of the underworld, and the god of death, the god of wealth even. And so again, what Paul is saying is this: be so aware that you live in a culture that will try to deceive you and say, you know what? If you just had a little more beauty, if you just had a little more wealth, if you would win this war, if you would conquer these people, if you could just have these things, then you would be satisfied and then you would be happy. But they're all a big lie. They're all a deception, because the reality is this, and we know this to be true. Sometimes we've built up things in our mind and said, you know what? If I could just make this much money, if I could just drive this car, if I could just have this house, if I could just have this spouse, if I could just, then I would be happy. And you know what? Sometimes in life we get those things. And then we realize, you know what? That doesn't make me happy at all. They're lies. They are counterfeits to the real genuine thing of knowing and walking with Christ. And so Paul is saying, I'm fighting for you. I'm contending for you. And I'm fighting for you that you don't fall into the trap that there's something else out there other than Christ that can actually satisfy the longing of your soul. Be aware, be on the lookout, and don't fall into trap. Know that it is Jesus is the ultimate answer to the thing that can satisfy your soul. Can I get an amen to that? Church, I love you guys. God bless you. Get back in here tomorrow, and I will see you then. God bless.